Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Comics from the Multiverse. And it's a sad week. Because as Connor Ryan will tell you, the ginger sitting over there, below me on the video, if you're on the audio you don't care, but just know that he's below me. He will tell
Always
you
has to make that reference.
he will tell you that there was no DC Rebirth books this week, and we're all very depressed about it.
It's not good.
It's not.
It's what a shit week.
It has
It's
been.
pretty good for my wallet, so that was good.
Well, yeah.
And as Matt will tell you, it's also a little bit of a depressing week because he's got food poisoning and he's
Yeah,
still recovering. So,
but I'm here. That's the important thing.
yeah, I was going to tell you to take the week off, Matt, but then it would just be me and Connor, and the thought of that just wasn't. I just wasn't having it.
After Brexit, no, we can't have
No, I was
that.
just thinking, since last time we recorded, we had Brexit. There's been no DC books, like no
Yeah.
Rebirth books, and England got knocked out of the Euros by fucking Iceland.
Yeah.
And their immense Viking chant, which is actually pretty fantastic. You should
Well,
check
I
that out.
have a new favorite team.
Well, I'm going to make a quick correction. Brexit was actually before the last episode
Yeah.
Was it?
because we spoke about it. We briefly mentioned it at the start of the last episode, so I know for sure.
Right, okay. But the whole political world has gone mad in the week anyway, so...
Aye. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about DC Comics, which this week is a little bit difficult because we don't have books. However, we are going to use these fifth Wednesdays to talk about things that we normally wouldn't get a chance to. Maybe do retrospectives on things, you know, old runs or old big famous books and stuff. And that's something we'll do for future fifth Wednesdays where we have nothing to talk about. This time, though, this is the first one, and it seemed like the appropriate thing to do would be to talk about the New 52 and do a... We could call it a retrospective, but I prefer the term post-mortem.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
I know you'd like that, Matt. So we're just going to talk about the New 52. We're going to keep it fairly light on spoilers, I think. There'll probably be some big things from the New 52 we have to talk about, but there'll be big things that if you're into comics, you probably would know anyway. We'll avoid any, nitty-gritty. There's no reason to spoil the last issue of Lemire's Animal Man, for example. Things like that.
Yeah.
There's no reason to do any of that. And basically, we've been really positive for the last 5 episodes. It's been a super happy time. It's time to get a little bit negative. Just a little bit. And so we're just going to go through this. We're going to start way back at the start, when we first heard about it, where we were at the time, and just work our way through to where we were at the end, and why we were desperately clamouring for Rebirth as DC fans when it came to that time. So, I guess I said we're starting at the start, so we'll start at the start.
Makes sense.
So,
I
New
like, I like that.
It's usually what you do.
Yeah. Unless you're fucking Memento. Anyway, so, New 52 was announced in 2011. And it's actually kind of insane to me that it's already been 5 years now.
Almost, yeah. Coming up in September.
Yeah. Well, if I remember right, the announcements were like in May, June time, so it's actually
Yeah.
been 5
Yeah,
years
that
since
sounds
that
about
happened.
right.
Yeah. And so they announced they're doing a line-wide relaunch. There were some rumours before it, I recall, and then they, revealed their wad and they showed us a bunch of books. I think they did it in the groups, because remember they split it into like 5 families of books. They had the Bat
Yeah.
books, the Super books, Justice League books, Young Justice or Teen books,
Yeah,
whatever they called
Young
that.
Justice.
Edge and
And
Dark
the-
were the
Yeah.
last ones, I think. I may be missing one. Maybe Green Lanterns was another family. I can't remember. But that was the thing they did, and they split it all up. And they were bringing in some Wildstorm characters and all that. But before we actually talk about what they announced and what we were thinking about what was coming, I just want to get a sense of where we all were in terms of readers, because for me, the New 52 was actually when I started reading monthly titles. I'd been reading DC Comics for years at that point, but I'd been doing it entirely through trades and hardcovers. So, regardless of anything else, when they announced all this, I'm like, that seems like a good time to maybe make the switch, maybe jump onto this whole Wednesday Warrior bollocks and get into it. So that's where I was, and I'd read a fair chunk of the bigger characters. I'd read a ton of Batman and Superman. Read a lot of Green Lantern by that point. I'd read Johns' Green Lantern. Read a fair bit of Flash, and that's just kind of where I was at the time. Matt, I think you were reading singles a lot longer before me and Connor were, but you are older, so that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah. I didn't start getting way in about '04 when I went off to college, a whole, car ride away from my house, and they actually had a comic shop. So I've been reading since '04. So I had 7 years of DC built up. Um, but I wasn't excited. I always got excited for whatever Johns was working on, which was usually Green Lantern back at the time. And then Flashpoint, I was 100% in on. And that's what led to the New 52. So I was stoked because it was something new, and we didn't quite know what this whole New 52 was going to be. So, and then we quickly found out. So I was a long time reader at that time. I think I was only reading DC at the time. So, and now it's funny because my shop gives me crap still when I pick up a non-DC book, even though I've been reading everything else since probably the New 52 because it got that grim. I needed other stuff to read. So, but yeah, that's where I was at.
Connor?
Yeah, I was in a similar position to you, Pete, where I hadn't been reading singles, but I had been like reading sporadic trades and graphic novels and stuff. But I think probably a little bit less consistently than you were. But then obviously I did the same thing where I saw all these new number ones. Seems like a good time to jump in and follow on, and there was no needing to look into where. It was just like, well, start here.
Yeah, that was almost kind of what they were hoping for, possibly, as people like us who had been invested in everything but weren't reading singles.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and it's funny because when we get to talking about complaints and things we were disappointed in, I feel like we just have the exact same complaints as Matt anyway. Like we were already invested in everything. That was just, it didn't really matter how we'd been reading it. We were still annoyed by everything that changed. Maybe not right away, but once things became clear and things settled down.
I don't think anyone was that annoyed right. Well, I mean, there was a small minority that were annoyed right away.
Yeah.
But for most people, I feel like they were willing to give it a shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
More so than Rebirth, I think,
Possibly.
Well, it's because they had the good faith at that point. There was
Yeah.
like you said, it was Johns who was spearheading it, and it was like, well, let's see where he can take us. Whereas when it got to Rebirth, people were a little bit more salty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've done a pretty good job of winning people back, I feel like, with Rebirth, but that was certainly the climate back then. And it was funny because obviously once they started announcing stuff, and it was things like, oh, Barbara Gordon's Batgirl again. So yeah, there was a bitter sweetness to it. It was like, oh wait, so my Stephanie Brown book from Brian Q. Miller's ending? Oh.
That's
Yeah.
sad. But Babs is Batgirl. How did she get her legs back? Because she's not Oracle.
Yeah, because it's not like I dislike Babs. I love Babs.
Yeah. So there's always a silver lining in everything. Because Johns was continuing from Green Lantern. So he had ended an arc there. And it was going to keep basically continuing with the New 52.
Yeah.
So,
Other excitement, of course, was Scott Snyder at the time was working on Detective Comics on what I still think is his best Batman story, and he was going into Batman proper. That seemed exciting. There was at the time Grant Morrison on Action Comics seemed exciting.
I think also the fact there was just a lot of diversity in the style of books. I mean, you had the war book, which war book there was at the time.
Yeah, but the fact you can't remember what it was.
No,
is
they've
saying
done a
something.
few since, but like like they were trying things. You had a iVampire, like you said, all the Edge and Dark titles. They're a bit out there compared to what most of the line was.
Because they'd merged Vertigo and Wildstorm into DC.
Yeah.
So those two imprints, just started printing under DC. They needed a spot for them, and that's where we got Snyder on Swamp Thing too. Which that was the first time I'd ever read that character, so that was cool. Like there was a whole lot of newness that I was willing to try.
Yeah,
52 flavors of it, Matt.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just kind of where we all were at the time, and I think leading up to it, I did get pretty excited. Like I was kind of pumped. I was like, oh, this is all the ones I want to try, and I think when it launched on the first week. The first month, I should say, not the first week. The first month of it launching, I planned on buying like 20, 25 books. I ended up buying like 35. I tried way more. Because like one that I never even thought of was Animal Man. And then I heard that Animal Man issue 1 was good. So I went out and tried it. And it was great. that's definitely one of the standouts, just right from the start, was Animal Man. And that entire run's worth reading as well. That's one of the things that I would still
should also be read with Swamp Thing, because they make a really great duality.
Yeah, Swamp Thing's great as well. Snyder's Swamp Thing's pretty good. I really like their crossover.
Yeah, Rat World.
Yeah. Whole Worlds of the Red and the Green. And
Yeah,
all
the whole run, though, they kind of like they're the opposite parts of each other, and they just work really well together.
Yeah, they do.
Well, because they were bringing in DC, some indie guys. Because, like, Lemire really hadn't done superheroes, really. He had Sweet Tooth, and he had done Essex County. And then Snyder had been working on Detective, but he came from Animal Man and... not Animal Man, American Vampire. And that other one, I think Severed?
Severed, yeah.
Yeah, so to have these guys now doing superheroes full-time, it's worth something checking out. And he also had old classic creators like Kurt Busiek on Superman, I think, or George Perez.
That was Perez at the start.
That was Perez. So yeah, and new with old, so I didn't know how it was going to play out.
It seemed like there was something for everyone.
Yeah, it seems like they wanted it to be a jumping on point, and I think that's where we hit the first stumbling block of the New 52, is how much it really wasn't a jumping on point for about half of the books, possibly more than that. Because I think one thing that was clear right at the start is you look at Batman. Nothing's changed. It's continued right on from what it was, with the only exception being it's now all happened in 5 years, which doesn't work.
But the thing is, it still does work as a jumping on point, because it doesn't really matter that much, because they still introduce all the characters. Yeah. Like you have that page, I think they do it like right at the start in the first issue. They have the family portrait thing.
Well,
and it says these are who they all are.
With that specific example, sure, because it was well written.
Yeah,
I tried.
But there was like 9 Batman books.
I tried the Legion of Superheroes book at the start of the New 52.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that wasn't a good version of Legion, Pete.
Nah.
And that book not only had so many goddamn characters that I couldn't keep track of who was who, almost all of them had 2 names. That
was not new reader accessible in the latest.
No, that was about as new reader friendly as issue like 58 of a...
To be fair, if I recall, they did remind you who everyone was like 3 times an issue by having their names next to them.
Yeah, because it wasn't Legion Lost is the book that it was launched as.
I think so, yeah. That sounds right, yeah.
So it dropped you off right in the middle of a thing that was ongoing that longtime Legion fans had heard about, but had never really seen. So I don't know if that was the smartest to drop you in the middle of. Like an introductory issue would have been nice.
Yeah.
But no, I mean there was good stuff at the start of the whole thing. People often talk about Azarella's Wonder Woman. There's been a high point. Of course, Snyder's Batman, which we've sort of briefly mentioned, was a big hit right away.
Azarella's Wonder Woman.
That's what you said.
I said that first.
Did you? Oh, sorry. I thought you said something else for some reason.
Oh, no.
Well, apparently my brain is shot to hell as well as Matt's today.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
like what you get to deal with.
yeah.
Oh dear. But no, you had that. You had Lemire's Animal Man, which is kind of a standout hit. Snyder's Swamp Thing. You had... what else was at the start that was good?
Francis Manipul and Brian Buccellato's Flash.
Yeah. That was good, but that was very bittersweet.
Yeah. Well, because the Wally switch.
Well, it wasn't even just the Wally switch. I'm fine with Barry Allen being the lead of the Flash book. The problem I had with that book was that, unlike Batman and Green Lantern, they reset Flash and Superman, but we'll stick to Flash just now. Right back to square one, where Iris and him are just kind of like friends. Well, they won't know some down the line. Like, he's got another love interest just now. Wally doesn't exist. Like, everything was stripped away. Everything. Yeah. And that was really
the rogues had superpowers instead of weapon systems.
See, that's the thing. You look at it like that, and it's like, oh, this should be awful, but it was still well written and enjoyable.
Yeah,
it was, but at the same time, I'm happy to be back.
Well, I look at it, and I know it's hindsight, but I look at it now that we got all of that for the build to have Wally come back the way that he did. So I'm now okay with it.
Just view the whole of the New 52 as he was
Just-
just waiting for this return.
yeah.
Well, I think a lot of us felt that way on the outside of it.
Murdering time.
Yeah. So that no, the Flash was good. It was certainly beautiful to look at, and it was pretty well written.
Yeah.
But it was really bittersweet. And I don't think I ever fully got over how much we lost with Flash, or Superman for that matter. But we're
Yeah, I think it was more stomachable at the start where it was well written. It's when it became not even good to read. That's when it starts to really hurt.
Of course. I mean that obviously is when it really really hurts. But as good as their run was, there was always this kind of like asterisks next to it, you know, like
Yeah.
kind of thing. It just never felt. You know, when I look back on all the great Flash runs, as good as that one was, it'll always be under all the ones that I kind of see as being in continuity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
But not because of just the technicality of being continuity, for just what is missing from that continuity.
Right.
Yeah.
But I suppose that leads on to Superman, because we alluded to it a couple of times there, and this is where Matt gets to run wild. First up, Superman at the start of the New 52. We got 2 books. Well, we'll briefly mention Supergirl actually first and get her out of the way, because she'll be a fairly quick conversation. I enjoyed Supergirl at the start of the New 52.
Yeah.
It was going well for about 10-12 issues, and then someone named Scott Snyder came barraging in with a crossover called Hell on Earth, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hell spelled with H''EL.
Yeah. What
Yes.
a dick.
Yeah.
So that came in, it took over the book for like 2-3 issues, and then I just never went back. Like it's that thing where,
It just derailed the whole thing.
yeah. And the funny thing is I eventually did go back to Supergirl, because Supergirl got a new team around issue like 34, I want to say, something like that. And it was like Supergirl going to intergalactic Hogwarts kind of thing for people with superpowers.
The Citadel.
And it was really fun. And then they cancelled the book at the end of the first arc of this new team.
Yeah.
It was rough times, because that was legitimately really good.
It was. And what's even funnier about that is it meant that when the Supergirl TV show started, there was no Supergirl book.
Yeah. Madness.
Yeah, none of it seemed to line up very well. So needless to say, I'm deeply looking forward to the Rebirth Supergirl book, because it needs to happen. I want good Supergirl. But so that Supergirl very quickly sort of dealt with in terms of that. But Superman, oh geez, we had 2 books. We had Superman, we had Action Comics. Action Comics was the one that everyone was kind of looking forward to, because it was Grant Morrison, who certainly during this time and since then, I've definitely discovered for me is very hit and miss.
Yeah.
You know,
Mostly miss. But when he hits, it's like Robin Hood. It's an arrow that splits an arrow.
yeah, it's you know, when he's hitting for me, it's, you know, Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, Batman and Robin, like that's when he's like firing on all cylinders for me, and I get it and I love it. But then there's Action Comics where it just feels like you're changing things about Superman for the sake of having a different version of Superman. At least that's what it felt like to me.
Well, and we found this out later. I think it was around when Rebirth was announced. Is he had taken his plans to tell a Golden Age Superman story, and it was supposed to be almost like a prequel to All Star Superman, and instead they threw it under the New 52 and gave him Action Comics. So that's why it's, I think, 22 issues, and it's just very all self-contained.
I think it was more like 16, but yeah.
No,
Was it?
I'm pretty sure it was in the 20s. I
'Cause he wrote-
thought 24 maybe.
Yeah,
I gave
well,
up before it finished.
No,
so
because
you're
he
more likely to be right than I was.
Well, because he stopped at 20 because Andy Diggle was coming in. And that's when really the real problems happened, is he got announced and then immediately he left.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it didn't go straight on to Pack, so it definitely wasn't 24.
Yeah, Pack was what, 25?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there was a couple of issues of Lobdell before Diggle.
Maybe then. But it was, reading it by itself is fine, but they had made it sound like this was the origin of this New 52 Superman, and nothing really lined up.
Yeah, nothing lined up, nothing made sense, and so much of what they changed about Superman, right away, right at the time made me kind of angry as a Superman fan.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the Kents died when he was young, and this landlady woman's now his mentor character. Like, what?
Yeah.
I will say, I definitely enjoy this run, definitely more than you two do. Because
Oh, I like it. I just don't. Now that I know it's a standalone, I want to go back and read it knowing that.
yeah, it also reads much better the second time through because
Yeah.
of like how Morrison-y it gets, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Oh, that's a real thing, Morrison-y.
Yeah,
That's all of what Multiversity was. So,
yeah, it reads much better the second time.
but yeah, so it did like Lex wasn't consistent from like Superman, where he had bought in the Daily Planet,
Mm.
to he was like this titan of industry that was working with the government and Action Comics early on, and just nothing really gelled.
Yeah, and then we got that stupid new suit that's actually white, but it just like turns into his family's crest because he's
Yeah.
wearing it, kind of thing.
I forgot about
I
that.
feel like a lot of that, like you said, those things not matching up. It should have been sorted at the editorial level, but someone was too afraid to tell Morrison that.
No.
That yeah, essentially they were like, no, this is the new 52 line. You have to change things to suit that.
Yeah.
They just never did.
Yeah, because he was a very much populist Superman. That's when we first meet him. He has the t-shirt and jeans and boots and moving fast enough so people can't see his face. So
Yeah, I wasn't into the Morrison run. I gave up about issue 10, I think.
But nine was the really good one with the alternate Superman president one, right?
yeah, President Superman, he fought Super Doomsday, and that's all a completely meta story. Then when you go back and read it in the context of Man of Steel, it's like, oh man, Morrison was out in front of this before everyone else was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the funny thing is, though, is for me, that just made me want to drop it. Because I was just like, this is getting weird. This is not Superman. This is not what I want to be reading.
I was reading it out of spite because I did not want to believe, because we had Action or Superman, and Superman was very...
Shit.
If Action was very uneven, I would dare say Superman was not good.
Yeah,
And I
so
feel that's because editorial had handcuffed George Perez, who's like an all-timer storyteller.
yeah, I feel like George Perez shouldn't, like... I don't see George Perez's name and think, oh, this is going to be shit. And I don't think that now just because of that Superman run, which, by the way, was like 6 or 12 issues. It wasn't long. It was replaced.
It was only 6 because
6.
Jurgens came in.
Then Jurgens did 6, and then Lobdell took over for Hell on Earth.
So they could make Hellspawn a villain to remind you that they also have Wildstorm.
Yeah.
And of course, Lobdell wrote him like Peter Parker. If you recall that, he had a very Peter Parker style of voice in that. At least that first issue. I only ever read his first Superman issue. I didn't read anything after that.
Lucky
so I don't know if it changed.
No, I think I stuck through it for a while.
Oh, I did. Because I made a video of me finally dropping it because I had read Superman on my poll since 2004. And so it was a big deal when I finally dropped it after about 16 issues. Icing it out on the poll list.
Yeah, this was the time, actually. See, it was around the 13 to like 16 range where my new 52 pool shrunk considerably. Not to what it had eventually become at the end, don't get me wrong, it got really small towards the end. But, like, I went from 20 plus books to about a dozen, you know?
But we did have the Wave 2 starting around that. It was around issue 12, right?
Yeah, because their whole thing was they wanted to keep it at 52 books, so when one got canceled, they had another one on the bench ready to go, which that was actually kind of cool, because it allowed for stuff like G.I. Robot when the...
Yeah, and that was also when Justice League Dark got really good. I think that's around when Lemire took over.
Yep,
was that 6 or was it 12? I can't remember which one he took over, but like when he
I
took
don't
over,
remember
that
either.
became really good.
Yeah.
The Earth 2 book, while, different characters, was actually a good book.
It started really strong, and then Robinson left because, again, editorial.
Yeah.
I liked the first arc of that, and then it started to dwindle. And then I dropped it around issue 10.
Yeah, I think I did too.
Yeah, I kept going until they had launched the weekly, and then I used that as my bus stop, and I pulled the chain and I got off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Wave 2, I don't remember anything surviving Wave 2 for me. I remember I tried a lot of weird stuff at the start as well. I tried Resurrection Man, which was Abnett and Lanning.
That was alright.
Yeah.
It was. I think I read 3 or 4 issues of that, and I just kind of fell off of it. And then I heard it was cancelled before it even had enough for a second trade.
I finished it. It was about what, 8 issues?
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
It wasn't great, but it's pretty good, you know.
No, I enjoyed it well enough at the time, but it was one of those things where I was reading so much, it was just one of the first things to go.
Yeah.
I tried a lot of stuff that I read like 1 or 2 issues of and dropped, you know, Fury of Firestorm, and
Oh yeah,
That was less
terrible.
good.
yeah, that was less good. What else did I try? I tried Captain Atom for 1 issue. Tried the Green Arrow that they launched with, and I hated that.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, they were trying to make him. We didn't have the Arrow TV show yet, so they were trying to make him Smallville Ollie. And
Yeah.
it was completely opposite from the Ollie that we were just reading. So
Yeah.
so weird.
Let's talk about the Bat books for a minute, particularly at the start of the
Mm-hmm.
New 52, because obviously there was a lot of them, especially if you include the Bat family as a whole. So I just want to sort of run through them. So I'll talk about Scott Snyder's Batman. Obviously, Scott Snyder's Batman is very good for most of his run. There's a couple of hiccups along the way, especially towards the end, I think, for most of us. But some great stuff in there. Which I don't even think we need to go into too much. We could probably almost do an episode at some point when we've got downtime just on Snyder's
Yeah.
Batman at some point. But
Yeah.
So-
So much to say about it.
yeah, that's Batman. But I want to talk about the other ones because we're never going to talk about the other ones in any other place. I don't think. Maybe Batman and Robin, but certainly not the other ones. So, Detective Comics, they had Tony Daniel
Oh God.
on that writing duties.
Stick to drawing, buddy.
And the funny thing about that is he had actually been writing Batman before. It was like him and Snyder swapped. Like they were on the opposite books before.
Oh yeah,
And-
that's right. He was on Batman.
Yeah, he was on Batman, and it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. It was definitely the weaker of the 2 books.
Wasn't
Like,
that the weird Jeremiah Arkham stuff? Like,
So,
was that
some,
another
We
book?
started with the doll maker, didn't it?
Well, that was with Detective, but I'm talking before the New 52.
Oh, okay.
yeah, when he was on
Cool.
Batman, he had I can't remember. He had like a weird arc before the end. There was some.
Yeah.
There was some stuff before that. There was so many Bat books before the New 52 as well. They kind of all blend in together. Streets of Gotham from and all that stuff. But
Gotham City Sirens.
that was another one. But his Detective, I read Detective for maybe 12 issues, and I came back here or there for things. Not when he was still on it. I don't think. Like, I came back for 19 because that was the 900th issue of Detective.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see the one shots and stuff they had inside the book. And 27 they made a big deal of. And then I came back when Butch and Manipal were on it, and that was actually
Yeah.
really good. That was probably the best Detective was in the New 52.
There's no probably about it. It absolutely was.
It was, and even when they took a break for 2 issues, we got a really nice 2-parter from Ben Percy.
Yeah. Which was on par with their run, I'd say.
Yeah, so that was definitely the
Sorry.
best part. One of the most disappointing things for me is when I was catching up on a few books towards the end of New 52, and I'm like, right, so I need to get caught up in Detective, and then I think Connor said, oh no, Butch and Manipal aren't on it anymore. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they only did, because they did one arc, and then there was the break, and they did another arc, and I think that was it.
Yeah.
Maybe a few
Yeah.
extra issues at the end,
Yeah.
where with just one of them left earlier, I think, and one of them just finished off.
Yeah, I think when I stopped reading it, they were still on it, but it was tying into the whole Gordon and the Bat robot suit thing, and I was just like, oh, I don't want to read any of
Nah,
this.
see, I don't think they did any of that. That was
Did they
when Tomasi took over, I think.
In that case, I finished their run. Oh well, that's depressing. There's no more of that to read.
So you guys didn't like the John Layman stuff that he did with Emperor Penguin?
Oh no, that was pretty good. It
Yeah,
wasn't
that was-
anywhere near as good, but
No,
it's pretty good.
I liked it.
It,
I thought he gave us a cool new character which is kind of hard to do for Batman because he has such iconic rogues gallery. But so to get Ogilvy, the Emperor Penguin, I thought it was pretty cool.
It was okay. I
Liked it,
think for me, like going back to issue 1 of Detective though, there's a couple of things I want to point out. Is just the writing in that. When I went back and reread it at some point, just the issue, I was just curious. I wanted to go back and see what it was like, and I'd forgotten how terrible the dialogue was on it, because he actually wrote in the caption boxes like for Batman. It's Batman would say things in his narration like "I am the night," "I am the bat." Like it was all these sort of things that we should be thinking.
See, even as dialogue, those are fine in the circumstances because you can say that to a villain to scare them.
Yeah, you can stream it at them. Yeah.
But as an internal monologue, nah.
No,
So I'm really
that's very end of his career, Batman. Who he's been punched in the head a little too many times. You know, so he's not. You know, reality is, you know, that's when you start to see Batmite for the first time. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I would guess.
So yeah, that was Detective. We had Batman and Robin from Tomasi, and that was fairly good. That was definitely the second best Batbook at the time.
I'd say 80% of that run was just fantastic. There was a bit after when it became the revolving, you know, Batman and
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I stopped.
yeah, that bit was a bit weaker.
That's that's kind of when I fell out as well. Actually, now you mention it.
Yeah,
Because
it picks up a little bit.
Good, Connor.
Just
Sorry.
at the very end, after that, it picks up a little bit for like 4 issues maybe, where it's really good again.
Yeah.
Well, because that was after Damien died, though, and I think that completely just killed that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I was going to bring up Carrie Kelly, how they inorganically put her in there and made such a big deal. And then it was like a half a panel. And then I don't think she's ever brought up again in Batman and Blank, right?
I think she's in a couple of issues in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I remember Bruce like talking to her, and she's like wondering where Damien is, and like I remember that scene happening.
Okay.
Yeah,
After
she
he died.
shows up a few times, but ultimately nothing happened with her. And it was
Yeah.
kind of pointless.
Again, editorial.
It was the sort of thing where this could have been any friend of Damien's, like from school or whatever. It could have been anyone, but it
Right.
was Carrie Kelly just for the sake of it.
Yeah, they just called her Carrie Kelly because
Yeah.
name
Right.
recognition, you know. Then we had the Finch Batman book. We had Batman The Dark Knight, which I wasn't even going to pick up because it looked like the worst of the four, just from previews and stuff. But I was in the hype, and I was buying all these number ones, and I was like, right, you know what, I'm going to buy Batman The Dark Knight #1. And at the time, it may have been the worst comic I'd ever read. It was
And you're being
terrible.
nice.
It was
The sad
terrible.
part is I really like the idea of the book where
Mm-hmm.
each one focused on like the villains and it took a lot from their perspective, and like I like that core idea.
Apparently, the Two-Face story is really worth reading. I quit after issue 2. And that was when
What
I think
was the
Villains
first
on-
arc?
I don't remember.
Yeah, you're not going to
Kinda-
get a memory.
There was
from
there was
that.
a Scarecrow one. Was that the first one or the second arc?
I remember the cover
No.
of issue 2 being like a very muscly Bane-looking Two-Face holding up Batman.
Yeah. Oh, God, and there was that Bane stuff, too. That Bane cover was terrible.
Oof.
There was some arcs like the Scarecrow arc was like, if it had been condensed to maybe 3 issues, it would have been good. But
Yeah.
spread out over 6, it was just bad.
Yeah. Well, continue with the Bat family, though. Batgirl. I enjoyed reading Babs' Batgirl. I had fun with that character and her voice. That said, though, Simone's run was never exceptional.
No.
No, it was perfectly serviceable.
That's exactly the word I'd use. It was serviceable the entire time. And because I like Batgirl and because I like Babs, I stuck with it until she was done. Until we got to the Burnside thing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But like, it was never great. It was, it's fine.
There was a few bits I did quite like where her and a brother and stuff. And
Yeah, that was
stuff was good.
The best part of it, absolutely, was Batgirl Wanted. I think that was right in the middle of it, around the early 20s, with Jim Gordon trying to hunt her down for the murder of her brother.
Yeah, that stuff was pretty good.
Yeah, that was definitely the highlight of the whole thing. But it was never amazing. Like, I remember she runs into like a vampire from iVampire, I think, at one point.
Yeah,
Later on in
That's
the run,
weird.
and I don't know, it was a shame. I think that weird, it's serviceable but not great, is kind of what the New 52 for a lot of it felt like.
Yep.
yeah.
Like, the spark's not there. Like, I'm reading characters, they've got bat symbols and Superman symbols on them, but
And it's fine for a while. Like serviceable for a while, that's all right. But then after 10, 12 issues, it's kind of wants something more.
I think
Yeah.
I mean, it goes all back to the first episode of this podcast, and those first words from DC Rebirth is "I love this world, but something's missing." It's kind of scary how much that line, that panel, nailed the feeling of New 52. But that's Batgirl. Nightwing, of course, very similar. Those 30 issues of Nightwing were fine, serviceable.
I liked them all.
I like this quite a lot. Yeah.
I don't like them as much as you guys. I thought it was all right, but I didn't love it.
You could tell again, editorial wasn't letting Snyder and Higgins, even though they kind of came in together, they weren't really communicating because there was this whole setup in the circus for training a Talon, and then it's revealed that the guy's not even a Talon, and then it's revealed that Dick was supposed to be, and it was just like, what are you guys doing?
I think
it's right there.
Yeah, the problem with that book was that it had to tie into Batman as much as it did.
Yep.
Whenever it was Dick doing his own thing, like the circus stuff, it was really great.
Yep.
But every time it got to like the Night of the Owl stuff and everything else that he got dragged into, it kind of just came down a good amount.
I'd agree.
Well, you guys like that a bit more than me. That's fair enough. I thought it was fine, but it was kind of similar to Batgirl for me, where I was like, yeah, I like Dick, I like his voice, and I know Higgins is a good writer. I'm currently reading by Power Rangers by Higgins, and that's a shit ton of fun.
That zero issue put me in. That's what I'm looking for. Doubt of his skills as a writer. I feel like Cowl. I feel like the Cowl not picking off kind of hurt his soul a bit.
Yeah.
I'm having fun with that, but it just it wasn't like I was super excited to be jumping onto a new Nightwing book, and it never really reached the heights that I was hoping it would. So, hey, what's left in the Bat family? Catwoman, read that for one issue.
God.
Terrible.
I read that for 8.
There was some better stuff later on.
Yeah.
Like when we get further into the New 52, but I guess we can talk about that a bit later.
I assume that it's after change of teams and stuff, though.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
That first stuff was just fucking dreadful.
I remember getting to the end of that first issue, and like Batman and Catwoman have sex in costume, and I'm just like, this is just edgy for the sake of being edgy. Go away. I want none of this.
It was fucking awful. There's no other way of putting it.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Because I was reading that I think Gilliam March was doing the march or the march, the art. So that's why I kept reading it for 8 issues, and I can't anymore. I gotta stop. So.
I think I got through pretty certain amount, 8, maybe 10.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Is that all the Bat books? I can't think of any other ones.
At least Batwing. That lasted for a little bit.
Batwing, yeah.
That was weird because that's one out of the pages of Batman Inc. And then they came through later and switched that whole book up and made it what's his name's son. So basically, if you were related to one of Bruce's allies, chances are your kid was suiting up.
Yeah. I don't know. That was just so forgettable.
I admittedly never read any of that. That fell through the cracks.
I don't think it was that bad. It's just really forgettable and didn't really do anything.
Alright, so I guess that'll kind of wrap up the Bat family from the sort of early days of the 52. Green Lantern family, this was the other one where nothing really changed. It just kind of continued on as it was. Almost to its detriment in a little way, because I remember Johns' Green Lantern, I remember getting that first issue and being excited because most of it was on Earth. And I was like, oh, finally, we're getting away from all these space shit and, prophecies and all these stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, even when it did go back into the space stuff really quickly, there was stuff I liked towards the end of his run. Stuff with the Indigo Tribe and Sinestro. In fact, just the Hal Sinestro relationship for the rest of his run was great. So yeah, Green Lantern was still pretty damn good for, the 16, 18 issues, whatever it was when it ended. I can't remember that number, but...
About 20?
Yeah, was it 20? Yeah, something like in that range. For then, great. And I was excited because I never really read much of Core, but this was like the chance I was going to take at the start of the New 52. Oh, right, they're doing 4 books, they're doing Core, they're doing New Guardians, I like Kyle, John Stewart, Guy Gardner, not quite as much, but I'll give their book a go.
Yeah.
And then there was Red Lanterns, which was like, okay, I don't know if I want that, but I'll try it. And My problem with all of those books very quickly became after a few issues, maybe the first arcs of those books, it became very clear. All right, these books kind of all just spin their wheels, doing very generic Green Lantern stories, waiting for the crossover that the main book is going to set up at some point.
Yep.
Do you know what? I didn't even read these at first because, like you said, it was so much exactly the same as what came before, and I hadn't been reading John's Green Lantern. So I picked up the first issue of Green Lantern, and I was like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on here. Because it literally, there was no introduction, it was just straight in. Like, I was just like, I'm going to come back to this a bit later.
You'll be getting to that soon, won't you?
Yeah, relatively soon.
Because you're on Brightest Stages now, you're not? Oh, yeah.
I'm just getting towards the end of Brightest Day, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I dropped the other 3 books maybe after the first arc, and then I read till the end of Johns' run, of course. That was good. It felt like the ending to Green Lantern as a whole.
Did you read the crossover issues of the other books, though?
Possibly, yeah.
Because
probably.
they were part 1, part 2 crossovers, weren't they?
I think there was at one point during that run, but I think so. I probably did for that. But I don't. I never. Once I got to the end of Johns' run, which, by the way, warning you now, Connor, the end of Johns' run treats it like it's the end of Green Lantern as a whole.
Oh, I know. I've see this is the thing with comics.
Yeah.
You read it, you kind of know the big events.
Yeah.
So I kind of know the rough ending because unavoidable.
Yeah, and then Venditti started Green Lantern, and I didn't really know Venditti. I came in, he was starting Flash about 10 issues later, whatever it was, but so I came in, read 2 of Venditti's issues, and it was just kind of boring me to tears, and I just dropped it.
See, I'd been reading his Exo Manowar, which was pretty damn good. So I stuck with it a bit longer, like in hopes. It's like, I've seen he can do better with a sci-fi property. It's like, come on, you can just pick it up a bit.
And that was the main problem, is it should have been better, and he just reset all the work that Johns had done to make Hal like a leader and someone to listen to. Turn around and just made him a jerk again, like he's the man, and the court needs to question him so he can come back and save the day.
And again, it's back to the same problem that was Mountain more as time went on, where we're just in deep space doing like space prophecy stuff and giant and I know Green Lantern can be like a space opera book, and that does obviously appeal to that, but like it would be nice to go like a couple of years now without any of the other color lanterns showing up.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, there are other villains, like that's why Johns didn't want to play with any of those. I mean, he played with Black Hand. But outside of Sinestro, he created almost all his own new ones. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. It was just, like, do an arc where they're on, like, be on another planet, be in some extreme planet out in space somewhere, but do like, a story where you're just on the planet, and you're having to protect those people or whatever,
They did do non-Lantern related stuff for the first arc. It was, what's he called? The big guy. Big, massive fuck-off thing. I can't even think of his name, but it was like with
Rakes, the Living City.
No, it was like he came from like another universe. It was like to do with all the lights out shit.
Oh, Relic.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Big fuck off guy who was
so
bland I couldn't remember his name.
Up description.
Yeah, I read through that, and that's what made me quit.
Yeah,
Green Lantern was Venditti.
Yeah, I got through that to the end of that first crossover, and I was like, nah, I'm done with that.
Yeah. Venditti made me drop Green Lantern, the one Green Lantern book I was reading, and it made me drop Flash. And I love Flash, so it hurt me to drop the Flash book. But
I will say at that time, though, I did pick up Red Lanterns, because that's when Sewell took over that.
Yeah, initially he wasn't who was writing it, but...
Yeah, but I really like that Red Lanterns run. I think that's pretty great.
Fair enough. I've yet to be impressed by Soul, honestly.
I like more of the stuff
when we get to the backside of Swamp Thing. That's one of my favorite things from New 52.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That backside. I preferred it to the Snyder's.
I do as well.
I didn't. I dropped after like 3 issues.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I really like Snyder's run. I've liked what I've read of Alan Moore's run. I didn't really like.
So I like Snyder's run. Like, it's good, but Soul's is better.
I don't know. I didn't care. I dropped it after
It's a
three.
lot more bright than Snyder. Snyder was playing with the Vertigo stuff and
Yeah.
making it dark, and Soul came in and had some fun with it. And I usually say he did the same with Red Lanterns because that's all I hear. The one thing they did was they did that reversible issue where the first half was Green Lantern, the back half was Red Lanterns,
Yeah.
and I was still heavily into collecting, and that pissed me off. Because
Yeah,
now I have
it's-
this one Red Lanterns issue standing out by itself.
You don't. The worst part is if you're collecting Green Lantern and Red Lanterns, which one do you put it with?
Yeah.
But then you gotta give them credit for giving you the 2 issues for the same price as one, because it wasn't extra priced.
No, which to me that makes it more of a negative because I only got half of a Green Lantern story.
Was
You
it
know what
not?
I mean?
Was it not double sized? Was it not 2 full issues? Was it not?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember. Mostly because I probably didn't read the Red Lanterns.
I vaguely remember it thinking at least it was 2 full issues, and they just combined them into the one for the month.
Gotcha.
All right, so that's your Green Lanterns, Card Flash, Wonder Woman. We mentioned that Azrael's run, of course, is very much loved.
And then that's all that exists in the new 52 for Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
isn't it?
well, because they thought we'll take Finch and we'll put Finch's wife as well on the book, and I never read any of this because ever since Batman: The Dark Knight, if I see that name on writing in any capacity, man or woman, creature from another planet, if it's the last name's Finch, I'm backing away slowly.
I gave it 2 issues. I gave it a benefit of a doubt. It's like, all right, Dark Knight was fucking awful, but maybe he was just he's matured. They got better.
Connor sounds like someone in an abusive relationship. He said he wasn't going to hit me anymore.
Hey, I walked away after they hit me again.
That's good. Good for you. You stand up.
I gave them one chance, and they ruined it.
So yeah, that was Wonder Woman. I guess we'll briefly touch on the Edge and Dark Lines. Edge is really quickly, honestly. I tried a lot from the dark side of things. I didn't really touch much from the Edge side of things.
Me
I
neither.
think I tried them all. Grifter was all right.
Okay.
What are the Edge titles were? I'm trying to remember what fell into Edge.
I
You had
think
Voodoo. You had...
That was all right as well.
Grifter.
Again, not great, but fine if you wanted to read.
was the Demon Knight or whatever it was called. Was that on Edge?
Nope.
Oh,
That
that's
was
dark.
I can't remember. That's the problem.
This is so long ago because they all got cancelled so
Yeah.
early on.
That was the problem with bringing Jim Lee in as co-publisher. He's like, hey, I got Wildstorm. We should throw it together. And Didier goes, all right, we're bosses. We do what we want. And that's how we got the Edge.
And then they lost the Edge quite quickly.
Oh man, what the hell was in Edge?
I just remember Voodoo and Grifter because they were the only Wildcats characters.
They were
had
both
the
all right,
books.
yeah.
Was I Vampire? Or was that Dark?
That was the
that
dark.
dark.
Anything that was remotely Vertigo was in the dark.
I'm seeing if I can find them quickly because
It's gonna annoy
what the
Connor.
hell was there?
There was like 5 or 6 of them.
Right, we had Stormwatch. Nah, that
I
wasn't
tried
it.
an issue of that. I tried 2 issues of that because Martian Manhunter was in it.
Yeah,
That's right.
and that was by Cornell, so it should have been good. But
No, I dived out of that after 2 issues.
yeah, Apollo and Midnighter.
Yeah.
Were in
I don't
there.
even remember that existing. that may, have been, that,
We're
may as
bringing it
well,
back.
that may as
Yeah.
well be the first time I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, Grifter. We had All Star Western. Apparently counts as an Edge title.
Alright, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
That was alright. It was just the same as what was going on before.
Yeah, I've never really been cared about Jonah Hex, so I never bothered. But
Fair enough. Sergeant Rock and the Men of War. That was the war book that they had.
Was that part of the Edge?
Yeah,
Wow.
I knew there was
dear.
one.
oh dear,
And Deathstroke was in there. Actually, the first bit of
That's
Deathstroke under Higgins was really great.
was it? Oh.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then what happened? Editorial forced him off, and who took over?
Tony Daniel and his drawing him with a gigantic sword. The giant swords are cool.
Well, right. So that's Edge. Dark, of course. We've talked about Swamp Thing, how good Animal Man was. Justice League Dark, Rocky at first, but a lot of people liked it when Lemire took over. Like like I tried Lemire's stuff. It seemed fine. I wasn't super into it though. Once it got like I read the Trinity War issues obviously because it tied into things.
Those were probably the weakest issues as well.
Well,
no,
after that too, after
Yeah.
Forever Evil.
I tried it at the
Yeah,
start.
very
I tried it when he started writing.
Yeah.
I'd read a couple, and it was fine, but I just like I'm not into Constantine, and he was like the core of that book.
Constantine and Zatanna. It's like, yes, it's my jam.
Oh, I like Zatanna.
House of
Zatanna's fine.
Secrets, House of Mysteries. You had the Demon Etrigan. It was a good time.
Was. I really love that that run.
Yeah.
Actually, if we're going, this is going deeper into the New 52, but if we're going into like dark sort of magic stuff, the book I really liked, that only lasted like 12 issues, was Gotham by Midnight.
That was very good.
I really liked that.
Yeah, that was much later though, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was way later on. I was actually really pissed when they cancelled that because
Yeah.
that was the point when I was down to like 5 DC books, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
I was like, God damn you bastards!
Yeah.
Because that was Ray Fox, right?
It was Ray
Split
Fox,
Lemire, yeah.
and it was Corrigan and a team of like,
Supernatural
Cops,
detectives,
yeah.
basically.
but were mostly cops who like started as normal cops and were sort of like pulled into it, and it
They
was
stumbled into it, yeah.
yeah, it was like Angel Investigations in Gotham kind of thing. It was cool.
Yeah, I
liked
really
it.
liked it.
Sounds fun.
I'd recommend checking it out. It was a good horror book. But so in terms of the magic stuff and the dark sort of fantasy stuff, that's what I liked. From
What
the
else
52.
did we have?
But jumping back to
Demon-
the original dark
Demon Knights.
Demon
Demon
Knights.
fantastic.
Yeah. Mentioned I
Yeah.
Vampire. iZombie's not in that.
No.
I'm hearing I and
Yeah,
I Vampire.
Yeah.
I Vampire. That was the one.
It's where first time we'd seen Sorrentino at DC.
yeah, and he really made an impression.
Yep.
Those early covers really hurt that book, though, because the early covers were like
Yeah.
someone else entirely, weren't they? First, like 6 or so, and they're all like Twilight-esque.
Yeah, that's probably why
Yes.
I never read it. I mean, the Twilight-esque thing is a problem, like, because obviously I see Twilight-esque and I'm like, ugh, like, go away. But I think in general, at that time when that all launched, like, Twilight was huge at the time, True Blood was huge at the time, which I also hated. I was just like really not wanting anything to do with vampires in general at that time.
Yeah.
You know, I was just sick of vampires and just how they were being portrayed in media. It was all about the erotic sort of dark romance of it all. Everything I liked about vampires from old movies and stuff, and things like Buffy was all kind of like.
The thing is, I don't even mind that angle, because that's kind of Dracula, really.
No, it is, but like,
It was taken too far.
yeah, if you look at Twilight and True Blood specifically, the ones that really, you know, upset my balance. It shifted more into soap opera bollocks,
Yeah.
whereas Dracula's more. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
Dracula, of course.
Did,
Dracula.
did you ever go back and read I Vampire?
No.
You should.
Maybe
good.
I will.
The first arc, I read the first arc and it's really good. So, and
Yeah.
it crosses over with one of the Bat books. I remember Brady says, "You want to know what Alfred was up to? Check out I Vampire, like issue 9 or whatever, because these vampires had invaded Gotham."
Yeah.
So, it's a pretty cool concept.
Now, that just really leaves Justice League and Justice League International, which I believe is the other one that started.
Oh, hang on. When was the Amethyst title? Was that at the start? Was that?
That was later.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that was his.
I
That was
really
a
like-
replacement.
Yeah, I think that was extremely underrated because it was a
That
lot
was
of fun.
Sword of Sorcery.
Yeah.
So we had Justice League by Johns and Jim Lee, and it was. It got good. It got good later, but it certainly the opening arc was very generic and basic, and didn't exactly set the world on fire. I think for most people it was around Throne of Atlantis when it started to feel like a proper Justice League book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the second arc was weaker than the first as well.
I'll be
Graves.
honest, I barely remember it. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
At least the first one, you know what happened.
yeah, I can remember what happened in the first one. But no, Throne of Atlantis was good. I liked Forever Evil a lot. Obviously, that was like the main event as well, but the Justice League issues during the event were also really great.
Yep.
And I
Cyborg
also-
stuff.
And I also like Justice League of America as well at the same time. That was like the Stargirl and Martian Manhunter stuff. Obviously, that launched later, but we'll just sort of include it here because it obviously ties in.
Yeah.
I liked that book when it launched. I liked it as well when it became United
Yeah.
for a while, because Lemire was writing it.
See, United is when it lost me. After about 2 or 3 issues of United, it just lost me.
I got to the second arc.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh, I'll pick this up in trade, and I've never gone back.
Yeah, I was fine with it until because Lemire left it, and I tried it again when I think it was Pak actually. Was it Pak? No, Parker. I think it was Geoff Parker.
Oh, there you go. That makes sense.
Yeah, who started writing it again, and it seemed fine. Because I liked those characters. I liked a book with Stargirl and Martian Manhunter and
Animal Man.
Animal Man. Yeah, because his book had finished by that point, so it was nice to see him in something. And it just I like the characters, but again, the stories weren't exactly setting my world on fire.
Yep.
Justice League International, which only lasted like 12 issues, I read like one issue of that. And
It was notable because Booster was one of the only people, Booster Gold,
yeah.
to remember pre-New 52. Because he shows up at the end of one of those issues and sees himself, and it's not himself. And it got me very excited. And spoiler alert, all it did was lead to Convergence. So it's like, someone knocking on your door, and you open it up, and then they just hit you in the face. I was like, well, that's what I get for opening the door.
Well, let's talk about highlights before Convergence then. We'll use Convergence as a sort of a road stop.
Mm-hmm.
So, highlights before Convergence. Obviously, Lemire's Animal Man was at least mostly before that.
Yeah.
It was all before that, wasn't
Was
it?
it all before that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was way before. That ended before
In the
that.
20s.
Yeah,
20s
like-
or 30s.
Not fair enough. Memory's
Yeah.
hazy.
I'm just thinking it must be high 20s, low 30s.
This is another one
Yeah.
where you guys like it more than I do. But don't get me wrong, it's good. I like the art a lot. I don't love the story though. I think the story's fine.
Wait, which one are we talking about?
Lemire's Green Arrow.
Oh, yeah. I had Animal Man.
Yeah, I
was
thought we
like,
were on
no,
Animal Man as well.
Pete, yeah. I was
Oh no, I
Pete-
like Animal Man more.
Okay.
Animal Man's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really loved that because the story to me it's the immortal Iron Fist in DC, and that's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah,
And
I
that-
love it.
The art from Sorrentino and actually doing character stuff with Ollie, and we got Emmy, his sister, out of it, and an awesome Dr. Vertigo, or Count Vertigo.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, the whole supporting cast was really good.
Fife and what was the girl's name?
Naomi.
Naomi. They were
Yeah.
great.
And I even introduced Diggle, and it was actually kind of good.
It wasn't bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I just reread it. Like I finished rereading it yesterday because I got the deluxe edition.
Nice.
Art looks just absolutely fantastic on that.
I bet Sorrentino does everything great.
Yeah.
Any other highlights before Convergence?
What we talked about?
Convergence.
Soul's Swamp Thing.
There you go. Right, jump into Soul Swap thing.
That was he started playing with the different so Snyder and Lemire had introduced the red and the green and the black, and you found out there's other different forms that they all kind of keep each other in check. And now with the red and green being wounded from World, they were all making their play. So it was this long. I think he had 2 years on it, so 24 issues. And he left this big long story, and the payoff is so amazing. Like what he does about the power of the written word.
Yeah.
I
And
didn't
it
even
becomes-
realise it went that long.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
about
wow.
that.
And what's especially great is a lot of it is one shots for quite a while,
Yeah.
or just 2 issue arcs. It's a lot of shorter arcs that build up, and because they're shorter arcs, they build up really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have the whole Cedar arc that happens where someone challenges Swamp Thing for Power of the Green, and that was 3 issues.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I was liking that, and then he dropped something else new that you really like. So I definitely recommend it to people. You don't have to read Snyder's run first, but I would recommend it because a lot of what he does jumps off from there. So
Yeah. The other great thing for me that started before Convergence, I think, would be Grayson, because that was
Mhm.
just after Forever Evil, right?
Yeah. That would have been because that was 30 issues. So yeah, that would have been.
Yeah. And that's it's just a fantastically fun spy book.
Yep.
It doesn't take itself that seriously. It gets a little convoluted at times with some of the spy tropes,
Yeah.
but
But it
it
plays
has a
with them.
lot of fun. Yeah.
And, there's this theory out there that Dick Grayson was always meant to be DC's Peter Parker. He was the everyman, You know, the regular guy hanging out with the Beatles. And I felt that more in Grayson, like when he's joking around with his partner, with Agent One,
Yeah.
or whoever Tiger was. I can't remember his agent number, but he was high up there. And like he's doing in one of the later issues, he's doing his own theme song, and you can tell it's to the theme of Bond,
Yeah.
to the Bond one. And he's like, "Would you
Yeah.
stop that?" And he keeps going, and it just reminded you that Batman characters can be fun.
That goes on for about 6 pages. It does like a
Yeah.
montage of situations. He changes the lyrics for each situation. It's great.
Yep. So
Yeah, I like Grayson as well. I'd never actually finished it, and this actually leads us on nicely to Convergence, which we can't really talk about because I don't believe any of us actually read it, did we?
I did.
Oh, Matt read it.
I read the first issue and 2 of the minis.
I read the Zero issue because it was 9 weeks because DC were moving offices from one city to another city,
Yeah, from New York to Burbank.
and their plan to deal with this 2-month weirdness and have books out. I'm not sure why they couldn't have the regular writers have books out. I don't know, but they had all these other writers come in and write. They had like this one team write a 9-issue, a 0 issue, and then 1 to 8 of Convergence, and then all these 2-issue minis that took place over the 2 months, and this I was already kind of wavering with the number of DC books I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
This killed my pull list because DC was gone for 2 months essentially, and when it came back, I just kind of forgot to come back to everything I was reading other than Batman and Justice League. And even then, I caught up in them later. I didn't necessarily jump right into them. I can't remember what else I was reading at the time, but wasn't a huge amount to be fair. But it all got just left behind.
Well, some of the minis that came out through Convergence were worth reading. So, because that's where we got the new Lois and Clark. Well, the old Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
And then the new series came from there. And Greg Rucka returning for a question story. Those 2 issues with Cully Hamner.
What did I read? I read the Harley Quinn one, which was like classic Harley. Bit more cooky and it's fun.
Beanies. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I read the Shazam one.
Yeah, that's pretty good too.
Which was really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. It was one of those things where I read the 0 issue of the event. We call it an event. What it really was is, we have nothing for 2 months. Have this.
The problem wasn't it all the weekly ones, Future's End and the Earth 2 one, that kind of built into it?
Yep.
And it was like,
and out of it.
And out of it, yeah. It was like, I don't know what the hell's going on for this.
And at the same time, you had Multiverse still coming out, which was telling an almost similar story.
But it was a completely different rules on the DC Multiverse. Yeah.
Yep. So nothing lined up, and it was weird. And they brought in what's his name? The guy looks like Oliver Queen, Warlord, for an issue, and I was like, well, who is this for? Because I can tell you, if there's not been a Warlord book for the New 52, it's so weird that he comes in riding a dinosaur. Like, I have no idea what I'm reading, and like an idiot, I read all 8 because I had made a commitment, and that's when I started saying, I read the bad stuff, so you don't have to. And I became a very bitter man.
You were a bitter man.
Yeah.
You were a better man. So that's Convergence. That was like a big staple, sort of, about a year before. Was it a year or was it 2 years before?
2? It was 2014.
Jeez, okay.
2014, 2015, I can't remember.
God, that was...
No, it was 2015 because it came out at the same time as Marvel's Secret Wars. And I remember making a comment in the Mild Fuzz group, you want to get a bad case of Whiplash, read those back to back.
Yeah, okay. A year makes more sense.
Because DCU spun out of Convergence, didn't it? That was the lineup after, and that started with issue 40s.
Yeah, because Futures End was their big... Futures End and Batman Eternal was their big in 2014.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, I was just so... Like, at this point, my enthusiasm for DC Comics was so low that I was just in, like, a real state of, like, not caring about things. Nothing was spurring me on. So they announced the DCU stuff, and I didn't like it.
You must have been enjoying Pak's Action Comics. That was going at that time.
I was, yeah.
Because that came in, 25? With
25.
That, for me, Pak's Action Comics in the middle of the New 52 was the best thing in that section of it. I was loving
when
that.
It wasn't tying into a weird crossover.
Yeah, that weird crossover with Doomsday. Yeah, I skipped that part, but the solo pack stuff before that and after that,
Yes.
really liked that.
What afterwards was the Horrorville.
Yeah, I like
Yes.
that. That
That
was
was
good.
fantastic.
That's the best Superman story to come out of the New 52. Bar none.
Yeah.
Was Horrible. And I was going through some anxiety issues at that time. And then there's that issue where Superman makes the decision. He's like, yeah, but courage is looking at fear and deciding to go anyways. And funnily enough, my favorite superhero helped me through issues. And coming off of other things, I wasn't expecting that, you know? So, because it had been not so good.
That's what Superman's there for, man.
Because that was
Exactly.
Because that was right around the time that Snyder's Batman was doing 0 Year, which wasn't
Oh,
bad, but it was like it just felt so like a tangent compared to can we get back to the main story, please?
I think the problem was a little over long, really.
Yeah. So
it's like 9 issues too long.
that came in.
That's a bit harsh.
That swooped in, as it were, to use some Superman terminology, and like propped me back up again during that time. I really liked Action Comics.
Yeah, because that first one, the 0 Year issue of Action Comics, is one of my favourite issues from all of the New 52. It's just fantastic.
That's him saving the boat, right?
Yeah, and like fighting against the storm.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, Pak's Action Comics, very, very good. I think it wasn't long after that we got Gotham by Midnight that I mentioned.
I think that came out after Convergence as part of the DCU stuff.
Because they also did the
think-
Gotham
I think
That's
Asylum.
Academy.
I think that was
Oh.
before.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong.
I thought that came out at this like after all the other stuff. Because I mean, how many issues did that
No,
get?
they came out after Eternal. Because that reset the board.
Yeah, it
Because,
wasn't after Convergence
Endgame, Endgame spun out of Eternal too.
because it had 12 issues and it didn't like if it came after Convergence it would have ended at the end of the New 52 and it didn't. It ended much
You're right. It must have come
longer before
a
that.
few months before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was November 2014.
Ah, it was only issue
Convergence
6
was,
or something like that.
May
Yeah,
2015.
April, May I think it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I like that, and I guess this is where we talk about new Batgirl, sort of.
Because that was a bit before as well, yeah.
That was a bit before, and it sort of leads into DCU because it led to things like Black Canary and Gotham Academy and stuff. I didn't have a problem. Like, see when they revealed the character and they said, "Right, this is what Batgirl's going to look like now."
Yeah.
My only real issue was that she looked a bit young. Other than that, I didn't mind having the new suit.
Nice refresh. It's
Yeah.
still purple and yellow.
It looks fine, frankly. Like, even keeping it now, I'm more than happy with.
Yeah. And then I read the issue. The issue 35 or whatever it was the start of this new run. And I really wanted to like it. Like I was determined to like love this new Batgirl book, and it just like it shooed me away as quickly as it possibly could. With just things that I did. I thought the writing was really weird and like overwritten. Like it felt like there was so much text per page, and then she was beating villains with QR codes and stuff like that, and they were constantly dropping in references to social media and like their fake version of Twitter, their fake version of Facebook.
I definitely didn't hate it as much as you did, because I quite liked it at first. At first, I thought it was pretty decent. The art I really liked, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it looked great. And it definitely had at the time, was a distinctive visual style for DC.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem for me though is like all that stuff tied into this new version of Babs. Like they were suddenly writing her as if she was much younger. I'm like, for me, Babs is like this really smart person who's been through so much shit and can like hack into the Pentagon if she needs to help out Bruce. Like, you know, this is who Babs is. And all of a sudden, there's scenes with her in Black Canary. It feels like it's out of like Hawaii 90210 where they're talking about boys and.
No, that definitely was a problem, and it's part of why I got bored of it after about 5 or 6 issues. Because at first I was like willing to give it a chance. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it just.
And I don't want that to be taken the wrong way. I'm not saying it can't have stuff like that. I loved Brian Q. Miller's Batgirl, was definitely brilliant, and that was definitely a high school girl teen book. I mean, anyone who knows me knows I love Buffy and things like that. Yeah. I think you can do all that kind of stuff and make it feel well written and make it feel nice and natural. I have no problem with a scene with Barbara Gordon and Black Canary talking about a guy. The problem I have is that these characters are so past that point and they're so grown up in my head, and you've de-aged them so much and they feel like high school kids now.
Well, and that was the thing with the Black Canary book is somehow she was still a spy, but she was super young, and she's funding this band for who knows why.
Because she needs money, clearly.
Yeah, and I wanted like the Black Canary book so bad.
That's
so
the
much.
thing. I thought the first issue was really good, and I feel like it could have been a really good mini, like 4 or 6 issues. But by the time you got to 4 or 6 issues, and it became clear they didn't have a plan for the story, and it just kind of trailed into nothingness, that's where I dropped it.
Yep.
Yeah, similar with Gotham Academy, I really wanted to like that. I actually really, really loved the concept of this. It's a private school in Gotham. You know, because I remember my favourite moment in the first issue of that, when I read it, was like they see like a glimpse of Batman out a window or something like that, and it was just this idea, you're in this world, but we're focusing on just what's going on in this school and whatever's happening. But for me, it just came down to the writing. I just didn't think it was that compelling.
Again, this is something I like more than you, because I stuck with this for a good while. I like the characters like Maps and Olive. They're like, I think they're really fun. But it got to the yearbook arc, and then it just lost me. Because it stopped, like, it was a story, it was moving forward, and was going somewhere. And then it got to this arc where each issue was like 3 flashbacks that were related to nothing. And they were all different artists, and it just completely lost me, and I just can't see myself going back.
Yeah, because this is one that's not actually rebooting for Rebirth, it's just kind of continuing.
Yeah.
Second semester.
And that's fair, like, it's got its fans, and they can have their book. Like, it's different with things like Batgirl, where I love that character, and I want a good Batgirl book that I want to enjoy, so I get kind of petty with that, where I'm like, no, cancel this, and do a good Batgirl book. For me, you motherfuckers. Whereas with Gotham Academy, it's easy to just say, you know what, it's not for me. Other people like it, fine, let them have it. Whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
that's part of the good thing about Rebirth in general as well now. Like, there's still, and what we were saying about the start of the New 52, there's a lot of diversity in what looks to be coming out. Some of it's not going to be for us, but that's fine.
Yeah, but the problem comes when it is characters like Batgirl that I care about and have an investment in, and they give me this thing that's just so not like Batgirl. It's
the same thing we've been saying all episode about Superman.
It's too different.
Yeah.
Superman, I don't care how young he is, should not be using the phrase booty call. He is a boy from Kansas that was raised by proper parents. He does not say that.
Well, maybe they died young enough that they didn't teach him to not say booty call, Matt.
I have finally used this phrase, I heard.
Dear. So I didn't really try any of the all DCU stuff. I know Midnighter was something that a lot of people liked.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I can vouch for that. I haven't read the last few issues because I fell off, but it was actually really enjoyable.
Because Orlando, who writes that, is going to be doing
Supergirl and
Supergirl.
the Night of the Monster Men crossover, I believe.
Yeah.
And the Night of the Monster Man crossover, for Batman. And all the nice things I hear about that book are filling me with confidence for those.
Oh, you should be. I fell off because I was trying a bunch of other stuff, and I just kind of fell out of it. But it was good.
Yeah, you turned into a filthy red for a little while.
Well,
honestly, I think that's the weird thing, is that we're all DC guys who all grew up on DC and all want to read DC books. But there was a good time in the New 52 where it was like, you know, this Marvel now looks quite appealing
that's
now.
Where, that's when I jumped into
yeah.
Thor. Yeah, and it's been my favorite book since October 2012. It's been very rare for something to unseat that.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, oh, Bendis is doing a couple of X-Men books. Yeah, maybe I will try. And that's was the weird thing, is that DC got to such a point where I was so disillusioned with them that I did start reaching out to other things. And I've definitely kept a lot of original stuff. Marvel, in a weird way, is kind of fallen off for me now as well.
I'm down to maybe 2 Marvel books again now.
I think a big part of that is with Rebirth coming back, and when I care about DC, I care a lot more about DC's characters and universe than I do Marvel, which is why we're doing this show, because we all.
I'll be honest, it helped so much that I think start of last year, start 2015, we got all the Star Wars books starting, and obviously doesn't help you, Pete, because you don't care enough about Star Wars. But for me and Matt, I imagine it's like, well, this plugs a good chunk of the DC hole.
Yep, it did. It very much did.
Because you were getting 3-4 issues, like mostly 1 a week, sometimes 2
for
a week.
While.
Yeah, and it was consistent. It was great to have something like that.
Yeah, and I don't mean it bad. Marvel's still got good stuff that I'm definitely go back and read and trade, but When it comes to reading monthly, I want to stick to one universe, and DC's the one I care about.
Yeah, that's the thing. You see the teasers for what's coming up in the Marvel universe, and it's just like, nah, I don't care about this. So it's not like it'll be bad. It's that I don't care. I don't care enough to try it.
Yeah.
They're in a weird spot, kind of like DC was. Not nearly as bad, but with Secret Wars, the way it ended, everything was so amorphous.
Yeah, because they revealed those teasers this week for US Avengers, and I looked at the cover and I'm like, I could maybe name you half of these characters.
Yeah, there was a big one that was
guy.
the big one with the two teams, like the divided
Yeah.
fall, whatever it was
Yeah.
called. Like, I can barely name you half of them.
And I'm like, who's this
Genuinely.
woman wearing a Captain America shirt? Who's that? Like, I have no idea.
But no, they're still good, smeared out.
Oh, of course,
I'm not
there is,
overly,
of course.
with DC right now, with all the Rebirth books, I haven't cut anything yet. I'm still primarily DC,
Well,
but
well-
I still, I still look forward to other books that
Yeah,
aren't DC.
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been catching up on some of my like image books and stuff like that. Like, I want to keep up with DC and keep up with some non-superhero stuff because it's a nice counter reading material. I mean, you're not, you don't want a superhero book. And we've kind of tangented in a little bit of Marvel talk here, but I think it's because it gives perspective of where we're from and why we're not reading tons of Marvel and why we are on this side of the fence, as it were. And it's not a fight. It's never a fight. Don't treat it as a fight, people.
No.
You want to read Marvel? Go read it. I'm just probably not going to
There's-
bother that much.
There's been a great meme making its way. It started last year, but it was, two nerds. One's wearing a DC shirt, one's wearing the Marvel. So I like Marvel because that's what I was, raised on. That's what I like to read. And the DC guy says the same thing. And they start to come to the middle, and they're like, well, we can all agree Man of Steel wasn't good. And and the Marvel guy goes, yeah, but Age of Ultron could have been better. So it's...
No. The
That's-
counterpoint to that should be, but now there was Captain America First Avenger. And then they shake hands, and then they go, yes, tranquility.
I gotta disagree. The fact that Captain America got my wife into tolerating my comics more, it will always have a soft spot.
There's a
to
thing.
me.
Captain America's a bit more divisive, but I think most people agree Age of Ultron didn't quite live up to the hype.
Yeah.
So it's fair to use that as the example.
I still like it way more.
Oh yeah. That's not the question. It's just
No.
in terms of the expectations.
But it was
It's more
it was a
useless.
nice little meme of these two guys arguing and then finding common ground and then admitting that they have their faults, and that's where we should be, because I think there's a hashtag going around a couple of years ago. I was like, why not read both? So
Yeah. That's
Because
the thing, I'm only
at the
reading-
time DC was mostly shit. That's why.
that's true. That's true.
I think I'm just reading Thor and Black Widow at the minute.
Those are two very good books.
Yeah, and they're both really fucking great.
I'm not reading anything monthly. I will binge read the shit out of Bendis' Iron Man when it's mostly done.
As you should, because it's maddening weekly or monthly. So
I love binge reading Bendis stuff, so I will do that when the time comes, and I'm sure I'll binge read some of the other stuff too. I'll catch up on Thor at some point, but we've tangented into some Marvel talk, and the reason why we did that is because it was just to put you in perspective of I only started reading some Marvel because DC was like completely losing me with what they were putting out. That's why it happened. So that's the relevance. We're on about too long on that, to be honest, but that's the relevance of what we just talked about. And this is when we get to the sort of the end of the New 52 here, and we're talking about where I am down to 2 books. I'm down to Batman, which, to be fair, that last year of Batman I wasn't really enjoying. I was reading it because I might as well finish it now.
yeah,
And there were some bright spots
Right.
here or there, but Supermassive, the whole Gordon in the robot bat suit and all that stuff, I just,
yeah. So I went through organizing my comics after Rebirth was announced, and there's only 2 titles that I have all the issues for, from the 0 to the 52,
And that's
and that's
Batman,
Batman and Justice League.
Yep.
A Flash, who's one of my favorite heroes, I quit on. Green Lantern, Superman, Action, Aquaman, all these other books I really enjoyed at one point or another.
Oh, actually, we never spoke about Aquaman.
That's, yeah.
52. Johns' Run was good. I liked what came after that as well.
Jeff Parker.
I actually ended up reading most of Aquaman. I dropped it when, I think, was it Bun after Parker?
Solon Bunn.
That's when I dropped it as well.
And
Me too.
But then I picked it up for Dan Abnett again at the end, so I actually only missed like 8 to 10 issues or something like that out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that one lull there. But other than that, Aquaman was actually pretty consistent.
It's kind of funny looking back at New 52 and saying that I read more Aquaman than I did Flash. I read more Aquaman than I did Green Lantern.
That's the thing. Aquaman, I don't think ever reached as high highs as some of the others.
No.
Its lows whenever. For the most part, it was a very consistently. This is solidly good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I all agree.
For the one chunk.
Ignoring that one little bit.
I just wanted to try because I realised we hadn't talked about Aquaman, and I'm sure there's probably a couple of books we've forgotten about.
Yeah, we skipped the whole Young Justice, but the less we said about that, the better.
Oh yeah, Teen Titans was dreadful at the start. Superboy was dreadful. I think that's all I read at the time. I can't remember.
What else was there? Blue Beetle was alright.
Static Shock, I think, was one at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, Blue Beetle was alright.
Was it a Vibe book, or am I just making that up?
There was.
There was a Vibe book.
Okay, right.
Later on.
I could have been making that up, but yeah.
That was alright as well. It wasn't awful, but you can see why I didn't sell, because,
yeah.
Vibe.
Maybe if they call it Cisco Ramon now, they'll.
Yeah, I bet you that would
copies.
sell more now than it did 4 years ago, whatever that was.
Well, he was working for Cadmus or for Argus, one of the companies.
They should call it Snow and Ramon. Make it a buddy book with Cisco and Caitlin.
Well, the Forever or the Villains issue, I think, was the Killer Frost issue of that. So we got the Caitlin Snow, which was very reminiscent of the Thing. Because I remember, I think it was Sterling Gates that was writing that. I tweeted at him. That was meant to be like an homage to the Thing, right? He goes, "You're the first person to bring that up." So I recommend it if you want some fun.
But we didn't really talk about the yearly events, did we?
Well, I mean, the first one was really Throne of Atlantis, wasn't it?
No, I mean like the September events.
Oh right, okay, yeah, the stunts to sell more issues. Those ones. So we had obviously all the issue ones the first year, obviously, duh. Then we had all the issue zeros the second year, and then was it the villains the year after that?
Yeah, that was one of the weirdest ones though, because some of them just continued the story and were like essential parts.
There was no consistency.
Yeah, because I mean, there was an Azarella Wonder Woman one that was just essential. There was a Lemire's Green Arrow one was just a Count Vertigo issue. Yeah.
Can I say how much I hated those yearly things?
Yeah.
Because, and I'll tell you why I hated them. I hated that every single DC book I was reading suddenly had this weird, and in a lot of cases forced, prequel issue. And it just completely came in, stopped the story at a grinding halt. And don't get me wrong, there was a handful of good ones that felt worthwhile, but a lot of them it was like, no, you need to do a zero issue. So alright, okay, I'll come up with something.
Yeah, the zero issues were worse. I think the villains one was the best because a lot of them just used it to tell a part of the story, just from the villain's perspective.
And then Futures End issues happened.
Oh fuck, Futures End.
Oh yeah, I've never even tried any of those.
I don't know which one I hated more, was the Batman Futures End or the Joker Villains Month.
But even the Villains Month stuff though, the problem I had though is you've got every book doing the exact same thing at the same time. It made it really boring for me that month.
Yeah.
It just felt like, oh right, okay, I'm just doing this over and over. I like the Rebirth for the most part is trickling things out, and we're not getting the exact same things at the same time, and I prefer that. I thought those months made it really frustrating to read, regardless of it's a stunt to sell issues because it's a thing. It made it frustrating to read. I was bored those months.
I think another issue was it made everyone cut off their arcs early, because very rarely did anyone do continue after. It was always a new arc after, and it really hampered them into these 6-issue arcs for the most part, like for everyone, no matter what.
Yeah.
I think pretty much Snyder was pretty much the only person I can think of who continued an arc around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because wasn't the Zero issue a prelude to Zero Year?
It was.
That's where we got basically his year one story. There was the fire scene and yes, father, I'll become the Bat. I think that was, or was that did that start in the first Zero Year?
I feel like that was in Zero. I think the Zero issue, if I remember right, in Batman
was Red Hood Gang, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the first time. Well, maybe that was in it as well, but the one thing I remember from the Zero issue of Batman was it's the first time that all the younger characters see the bat signal light up.
At the end. I really like that moment.
That was a good moment, yeah, that was a good moment. That's why I remember it, because I liked it.
That's right, I forgot about that.
But that was a really cool moment. There was young Dick Grayson looking up and seeing the signal go on for the first time and stuff.
Yeah, that was good. So, end of the year 52, and before we talk about how
excited we are for Rebirth. Let's talk about why we would be excited for Rebirth. I want to just look at a couple of broad issues that sort of just circumference the entire thing. One, it's really become clear to me, especially having read some Rebirth books now and having them back, is that New 52, for a lot of the line, completely, not literally killed them off, but just killed away all of the supporting casts of things.
Yeah.
And a lot of the heroes suddenly felt like they were on their own.
All the books are very insular.
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why I like Lemire's Green Arrow so much, because the supporting cast is very essential to that story. They have entire plot lines where he's not even there. And
that's right, they're looking for him.
Yeah, and like they're going after Dragon and stuff, and like they're doing stuff without him.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that book really good for me in a lot of the New 52. And the cats are back.
Firefly agrees.
Yeah, Firefly agrees.
Doesn't look very impressed, which pretty is accurate to how we feel at the end.
Well, we all know Firefly's a Daredevil fan, so...
No, Firefly, he's a Catwoman, of course. Who else?
That's true. I thought that was
That's
a
a
little
point.
too...
I really like Catwoman at the end. I think it was Valentine that took over. And it was like a crime drama thing.
Yeah, the one that she became like the godmother of Gotham.
she became the head of the crime family, and she was like the boss.
Falconies.
Yeah, and she was the boss of all the families at the time, and that was really fantastic. It's about 12 issues. I think before and after DCU, like 6 on either side, and that's
because I had the cool Jay Lee covers, right? Like
yeah, it did.
they were angular and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cat just knocked over my mic.
Nice.
What dick?
See?
Cats are dicks.
And that's not even the dick one either. That's the well-behaved one. So what are you doing, Pete?
He's spinning around. His tail's hitting things. It's a whole
I
thing.
think you could hear me talking about Catwoman. Just getting excited.
His favourite character though is Streaky.
That makes sense.
He wants Streaky to come back. He wants some representation in comics.
Yeah, I got mine back, so
I mean, he's got Dexter, but he wants a hero cat.
yeah.
That makes sense. And my dog's really into the Bat Hound, whether it's Titus or Ace. So we have a Batman pillow case that we put on the ground, and that's her bed. So she looks like Bat Dog, and I know she doesn't just upset me. She knows I want her to like crypto.
And he's like, no. Superman's lame. Batman's where it's at.
Yeah.
That's what the dog's thinking.
She does. Yep. So.
But yeah, so that's why the thing is the supporting casts all just seem to be jettisoned.
Yeah.
Yep.
Legacy, which returned with Rebirth, seemed to be gone. For
Didn't
a lot
help
of it.
that a lot of it was shuffled off to Earth 2, and they weren't even like that recognizable versions of their characters.
Yeah, just barely, because Alan Scott was tied to the green, which was cool because originally his power had a weakness to wood.
Yeah.
So it was like they were playing with that. That was Robinson, but yeah, just kind of once the dark side stuff happened, it went sideways.
Yeah, definitely.
So less recognizable.
Yeah.
I think for the rest of it, though, you can pretty much just say everything we were happy about with Rebirth, like that Rebirth one shot, and everything they were hinting was coming back. The reason why we were all upset is because all of that was missing. Like,
I think that's the thing. Johns knew better than anyone, probably, because he was at the center of the New 52 in this universe for many years now, and he recognized what was missing and just channeled that into the book.
yeah,
It's true.
I think that's why we're a little bit apprehensive with when they announced Rebirth. We're like, okay, we hope this is a good thing, and it was that WonderCon panel that really made us feel all good. Like, I mean, okay, right, they're saying all the right things. I'm liking the kind of things they're talking about.
Kept taking shots at DDO, which was welcome.
Yeah,
that was great.
Good.
They're showing his Nightwing with the blue. They're showing his Green Arrow with the goatee.
It's small things that don't even make an impact on the story, but just show a commitment to care.
Yeah, they're recognizable.
Yeah, we always use the metaphor that Rebirth felt like coming home. I want to continue that metaphor by saying that New 52 felt like you were overstaying your welcome at a friend's house, where you never quite felt comfortable just getting into the fridge for something.
Yeah.
You felt like you always had to ask.
They have their name on everything, so you can't eat anything.
Yeah.
Without upsetting them.
Yeah. I think what's really crazy about the end of the New 52 is how there was some good stuff, like good, no great, like Abnett's Aquaman and Percy's Green Arrow,
Yeah.
which those teams didn't change with Rebirth, but the books just had a new life to them.
It's worth, well, those were leaning into Rebirth as well, and it's worth noting that while I said I was only on 2 books at the end, those last like several months did have more books because there was a lot of minis going on at the time. There was Titan's Hunt, there was American Alien, there was Lois and Clark, things that were all kind of building for the most. Well, not American Alien wasn't. That was just on its own.
Yeah.
But
Green Arrow was going for a good year. Like that's from like 40 odd.
Yep.
So that was going for quite a while, and it was good as it was, but it feels completely fresh, different with Rebirth.
And
yeah,
Rebirth-
but it never interested me though until Rebirth. I'd heard there was a new team. I was like,
All I gotta say is he becomes a werewolf for like 6 issues. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's awesome.
It is really fucking cool.
Yeah, so, like, but yeah, that's it at DC is they left the door open and we all walked through, you know, and now we're all happy again, so.
pretty much. I mean, we have been in a really, really good mood these past 5 weeks. We've been really positive, and I hope this wasn't super too negative, but I think you can tell just by our tones just kind of how not angry we were during the New 52, but just generally kind of like
Disinterested.
yeah, disinterested, you know. I think
we drifted to Marvel. That kind of, and we want to read the DC more. That's kind of what it says about it.
yeah, you know what? I think there's one thing worse than hate, and that's apathy.
Yep.
And they made us apathetic, and then there was like glimmers of hope, and you know, I think the tears that streamed down probably every big DC fan's face reading Rebirth probably says sort of where we were and how happy it is to be back. And I think as we get to New 52, I think we'll just wrap up. We usually rank books. I think maybe what's your three favourite things from New 52, just in terms of runs or major stories? Like, pick your 3 favourites. I'm going to be more specific. Rather than saying a full run, I'm just going to give you 3 arcs, I think. I'll be more specific. Otherwise, you see Snyder's Batman, because that includes stuff towards the end I didn't like, so I'm just going to be specific and say, that's my favourite bit.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Alright, will I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Alright, much to, against popular opinion, I'm actually going to say that Death of the Family is my standout Batman arc. I love Court of Owls, don't get me wrong, Court of Owls is great. I love what was the one after 0 Year?
Endgame.
Endgame, thank you. Endgame was good. But Death of the Family for me, it all comes down to, see that first issue of that with Joker coming out of the police station with the lights out and the cops being terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's my Joker. Everyone's on edge.
Telling Gordon that he's, knows his smoking secret because he sleeps under the bed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I'm not sleeping now. Thanks.
It is fucking terrifying, and while it's not my favourite of the Batman arcs, I can respect that choice still.
Yeah, so that'll be one of the. I'm gonna put them in any order. That's just
Okay.
That'd be one of the 3. I think. Let's do one each because I need to think of the other 2. Connor, next.
I'm gonna say Lemire's Green Arrow, and it's harder to separate into arcs because it's
shorter as well.
Yeah, it is shorter. It's about 20 odd issues maybe.
Yeah.
And that includes the villains and the Future's End as well. And yeah, it's just everything that you could want out of a story, really, for me. It has strong characters. It's got a good plot. It's got something unique. It's got great art. It's all there.
Yeah.
Cool. Matt?
I'll jump onto Connor's with Soul's Swamp Thing. So, same kind of deal. They all play into each other. There's a lot of one-shots in there. A lot of new characters. And it's so worth a read. Because it does something new with Swamp Thing, which is a character that's been around for 40-odd years. And he managed to do some new stuff. So that was cool.
Alright. My second one's going to be Pak's Action Comics. Minus the Doom section. But particularly the Horrorville arc is fantastic.
Yep.
Really, really get that stuff. So that's my number 2. Connor.
Just for the sake of keeping some difference, because obviously those are both great and could easily be in mine, I'm going to go with a bit more out there. I'm going to Frankenstein Agents of Shade.
Nice.
It's, I think, maybe 8 issues? 12?
It went on a little longer than that, yeah.
Did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's a surprise hit for me out of it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I'm gonna go, because my other favorites have already been discussed with Green Arrow and Pak's action run. So I'm gonna go a little sideways and say the Shazam backup from Justice League that Johns did over about, I want to say 6-7 issues, and that was fantastic. It was him playing with the Shazam family, making Billy Batson a little bit of a prick, which up to this point he'd been like this good kid that was kind of easy to hate. Like, I kind of get people's take on Superman. She could say a lot about
it's
Billy
hard
Batson
to
and Captain
imagine
Marvel.
a kid being like that in today's world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
exactly. And he's angry because his parents have died, and he goes from foster home to foster home because he feels he doesn't need help. And I mean, we get a Black Adam appearance, and we get Taki Tani in a different form. Oh, it was really good.
That may have been my 3rd, actually.
Oh man, I didn't realize.
I loved that Shazam backup.
That was
Yeah.
fantastic.
That was really great. Where's my See, when Johns comes back to writing comics, I want it to be a Shazam book. Do it.
Yep.
I'm game for that.
In the interest of difference, though, I agree with Shazam 100%, but in the interest of difference, I will plop in Lemire's Animal Man.
God damn it.
See, this is what it's saying, that we all have basically a Lemire issue or 2 on our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because for me,
Connor has 2.
I think what's become clear for me, having tried Lemire's Hawkeye over at Marvel, and his Extraordinary X-Men over at Marvel, and what I've read from DC is that I much prefer him when he's not doing a superhero. And Animal Man's technically a superhero, but it feels a lot more like an original, like non-superhero character. You know what I mean? Because like Sweet Tooth, I love. The Send that I'm reading right now is really really great. Like
Underwater Welder is my single favorite comic.
I've not read
ever.
that yet. That's
So-
on the list. But I
Trillium,
think
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
his original stuff, for me, I think, always beats his superhero stuff. So, and Animal Man, I know that doesn't technically fall into that, but it feels more like it.
No, I agree, and that's why I feel like a similar thing about the Green Arrow. It doesn't play like a typical superhero book,
Nope.
which is again part of its strength, like you're saying there with Animal
Yeah.
Man.
They're like, you're the leader of this group. He's like, no, I'm not. They're like, yeah, your dad left it for you. I don't know that fool. Like,
Yeah.
it's all about him trying to dodge responsibility instead of taking it. And
Yeah.
that's what's great about it. So, yeah.
Okay. Third choice. Now, I'm torn.
Do you know we didn't even establish
Don't you
rules.
do it.
We did not establish rules at the start that we had to all not do duplicates, but we've
No,
gone so
no,
far
but
now. Yeah,
it's-
we're on the last bit. So yeah,
I'm torn between 2. There's the obvious one, which is Azrael as Wonder Woman, because it's just all there and it's fantastic. And then there's Grayson, because it's just so different and fun, and I really love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So which one are you putting there, Grayson?
they need to pick.
Yeah, I think I'm going with Grayson.
Look, I'm trying to have his cake and eat it too. It's like
I'm
it's between these
it's not
two,
even that.
and then he just goes quiet. He doesn't even pick. He just.
That wasn't even me trying to pass it on. That was just me thinking, like, which one am I going to pick? Like, it's a tough choice.
I know your game's Ginger.
Yeah. No, I think I'll go with Grayson just because it's a little different. I feel like most people would say Wonder Woman if you ask them about the New 52, but not as many would say Grayson.
It's good.
Matt, your last
And
pick,
I'm not-
and not duplicating
Yeah.
anything that's been said so far.
No. And since Connor already heat praise on Wonder Woman, and that's like his 3A and B, we also got the New Gods in there with Orion and Highfather, which is real cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Throne of Atlantis.
Right. Okay.
Just for its crossover, like it was a crossover that was well handled because Johns was writing both, and I think Race was doing the art in both, so it was very consistent. And it had one of my favorite all-time moments when Aquaman lets Atlantis know what's up by yelling "I'm your king"
Well,
while riding a sea serpent.
I was tempted to not go with that, but I was tempted to say Parker's section of Aquaman because I really like Parker. One of my disappointments actually with Rebirth is that Parker's not on a book.
There's a few things like that. There's a few people who have kind of shuffled off.
Yeah, well, he's still doing stuff at DC. He's doing I think he's doing the Apocalypse, the Scooby stuff, and one of those things. He's doing Future Quest, maybe.
Future Quest.
Yeah. So hopefully he comes back out of the fold for maybe he would be great on Super Sons. Just saying, DC.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That would be fantastic.
That might be their plan.
Maybe.
Yeah, it could be because we don't know who it is yet.
Yeah. Oh hell, give him a JSA book. I think he would cope well enough with that.
I can't wait for JSA's return.
Yeah, that's how I feel about the Legion. I can't wait for them to show back up.
I can wait on those, but JSA, I'm not positive. Oh dear. Alright, so that brings an end to this ramble of an episode. If this is your first episode of Comics from the Multiverse, I assure you the rest are all better. This one's been a bit weird because we didn't have books. We talked about New 52. But we hope this gave you an insight as to where we were with it, why we were so desperate for something like Rebirth to come along. Because it does feel like going home again. And I loved DC way more before New 52. I didn't go into New 52 with that attitude, thinking I'd hate everything. I didn't hate everything. We just told you 9 things. 10 technically is Connor cheated and they gave 2.
Hey, we even established it kind of trailed off throughout the New 52. The start of it was strong stuff.
There was a good amount, but there was also I think there was equally an amount of stuff at the start where it was instantly like, ugh.
Oh yeah, there's always going to be some of that with that amount of books.
Yeah.
Joker getting his face cut off. It's like, why?
Yeah.
And then Snyder and Capullo making hay with that and the flies around the mask, and it's just that's how you know they're great storytellers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that has been our discussion on New 52, and I guess one thing I always do at the end as well tells you what's coming next week.
Finally, more new stuff.
Yeah, there's new stuff coming this Wednesday. Cannot wait. New book that's starting. I don't actually have this in front of me, but I can remember them all pretty well. Justice League Rebirth is hitting this Wednesday. That's the one new book that we've got. So do check out that. We of course also have Batman issue 2, Superman issue 2, Green Lanterns issue 2, Green Arrow issue 2, and also Jumping Ship from the other, it was in the other batch with Detective in Action, but Aquaman issue 2 is also out, so Aquaman's jumping to the other batch. God damn it, Skype. We're literally in the end run, we're in the final couple minutes, and Skype decides to be awful and shut everyone's camera off. But yeah, as I was saying, so there's your books for next week. We got Justice League, Aquaman, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and that's the whack. So that's what we'll be covering in the next week's show. Looking forward to seeing how Justice League turns out.
Did you say Superman in there?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. There's too many now. It's already getting to the point where there's an actual list.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna after when we get to August, I'm just gonna have to have them sitting in front of me. There's no way I'm going to remember them all from the top of my head when we get to that point. There's a lot of new books coming over the month of July though. Again, I don't have them sitting in front of me, but we do have Nightwing coming. We have Red Hood and the Outlaws on its way. We have, I think, both Batgirl and Batgirl and the Birds of Prey are also starting.
Yeah, I think so.
One's got a Rebirth issue, one's just going straight to issue 1. And there's another 1 or 2 as well starting. I think Hal Jordan, the Green Lanterns is another one.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of stuff starting over July, so a lot of new things to check out, as well as the issue 2s and 3s of things that we've already started with. So exciting stuff ahead. July should be good. Looking forward to it. So that has been Comics from the Multiverse, episode 6, a rather weird and potentially wonderful episode 6. Connor, where can people find you should they wish to?
You can find me on Twitter at ConnorRyan94. And if you want more podcasty goodness, you can find me on Almost Cancelled, where we talk all TV shows. A lot of comic book shows. More in the network season, where we have every night. But at the minute, we've got Preacher, we've got Outcast.
Yeah. That's a thing. A lot of good summer TV's actually on right now, surprisingly. We weren't expecting so much good summer TV, but it exists.
Of. Just go check out The Night Of.
Yeah, go watch The Night Of. Trust us.
Just do it.
Trust us. Matt, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MatterSteel57 and doing a movie podcast called 1.21 Gigawatts with Pete. That's about it, I think.
Aye, you're sick. I'll let you away with
Thank you.
the half-hearted plugs. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at Wibble89. You'll notice, you guys, that if you've looked at my Twitter in the last day or so, I actually changed my name on there. It's no
I
longer
have noticed.
it's no longer just Peter Bradley. Oh, I'm still at Wibble89, of course. Like my handle's still
Yeah,
the
you
same.
can't change
man.
that.
Yeah. But I am now Peter Listmaster.
Oh boy. So you needed another title for that massive head.
Yeah, because my ego's inflating for my name I gave myself. Like,
To be fair,
Master
when,
isn't the
when
title.
you're giving yourself a title,
Yeah.
that's already a pretty high bar of ego, I think.
I was sick of having just my name. It was boring. So I thought I'd spice it up with something, a bit of flavour. Anyway,
Sure.
you can of course find me on the Screams After Midnight horror movie podcast that I do with Tim Vergilish, the Professor himself, and that's always good fun. Of course, you can tweet at us at mild_fuzz as a whole. You can also get us on email at mildfuzz@gmail.com. I had to think about that as I was saying it, of course.
Yeah. You can hear you just thinking, like, is it this?
Also, I love how I started that with you can find us at email. On the email, as if it's 1995 and I need to explain what email is. On the electronic mail, you can send us a memo if you wish. So you can do all that if you want to contact us. Of course, let us know what you thought of the New 52. That's usually I'm saying let us know what you thought of this week's books, but give us your thoughts on the New 52. You can do that via those channels, or you can in the comments below on YouTube. You can do all that.
Also, you should suggest what we should do in future weeks without books. Like, what should we look at covering?
Yeah, I was going to put a little section at the end about some non-DC books that we've been enjoying recently, but this episode actually ran longer than I thought it was, so I've left it off. But for future fifth weekends or fifth Wednesdays where we don't have any books, give us thoughts. What classic books would you like us to cover? I would say refrain from massive runs because we need to be able to reread them in time.
Yep.
To
To
talk about
arcs.
Yeah, so arcs, famous stories, like I'd love to do a Long Halloween at one point and things like that.
Yeah.
But do that. That's cool. And if you want to help us out, like and subscribe and give us like a 5-star rating on iTunes with a little review. Tell us we're amazing and things. Not because we want our egos to inflate, but because it actually helps with people finding the podcast and it gets new DC fans in the midst of the multiverse crew, as it were.
Of course, you can also come and discuss all of this with us in the Multiverse Facebook group.
You can. We have an ongoing comics thread in there that we have every month, and it always gets to like 1,000 comments. Usually it needs a volume 2 because we stop getting notifications because it goes on so long. So you can do all that. A lot of fun stuff. You can get joining in on. But I think that's us. I think that's been episode 6. We're here. It's been a whole month since Rebirth issue 1. That one shot.
That's crazy.
We're in a brave new world.
What a time.
Thanks for watching and or listening, guys. And remember, never get lost in the Speed Force.
Long live the Legion.